Jamie Carragher played 737 times for Liverpool. So when the club asked him to name the 10 greatest players in its history, people expected the usual answers. Gerrard, Dalglish, Rush. He named all of them. And then he put Mohamed Salah, the third highest goal scorer in the club's history, in the same season Salah announced he was leaving, at number 6. 10 names, counting down. He starts with the one almost nobody outside Anfield would pick. Ian Callaghan played more games for Liverpool than any human being who has ever lived, 857 of them. He was there in the second division before any of it, before the European Cups, before the dynasty, when Liverpool were a second-tier club in a city with 2 of them. And he was still there when they were champions of Europe. Carragher's point isn't that Callaghan was the most talented. It's that you cannot tell the story of the club without him. That's 10. Keegan. 6 years at Liverpool, 3 league titles, a UEFA Cup, and a European Cup. And then he left at his absolute peak, went to Hamburg, and won the Ballon d'Or twice. Which is worth sitting with. A Liverpool player leaving England and immediately becoming the best footballer in Europe. That's what Keegan represents on this list. The moment Liverpool stopped being an English club and became a European one. Here's where it gets modern. Virgil van Dijk, £75 million, which at the time was a world record for a defender and was very widely considered insane. Liverpool went from a team that conceded goals in ways that made no sense to the best defensive side in England in about 6 months, with 1 signing. And Carragher, who played centre-back for Liverpool for 17 years, calls him the best in the Premier League era. The best in 30 years of the competition. And he's got him 8th. Hansen, 8 league titles and 3 European Cups. A centre-half who defended by reading the game rather than by tackling, which in the 1980s made him look like he'd arrived from somewhere else entirely. Everyone else was kicking people. Hansen was just already standing where the ball was going to be. Carragher puts him ahead of Van Dijk. 8 league titles is why. And here's the one people argued about. Mohamed Salah, 3rd highest goal scorer in Liverpool's history. 2 Premier League titles, a Champions League, and 9 years of scoring at a rate almost nobody in the division has ever matched. 6th. Now, Carragher is not being dismissive. What he actually praises is the consistency. That Salah has never really had a bad season, that he's never injured, that he's on the team sheet week after week. Read that back because it's a compliment being used as a measurement. He's saying the remarkable thing about Salah is that he was relentless. And on this particular list, relentless finishes behind transformative. Liverpool supporters can decide for themselves whether that's fair. Plenty of them decided it wasn't. Ian Rush, 346 goals. That is the most anyone has ever scored for Liverpool, and it is not close. 660 appearances, 5 league titles, 2 European Cups. He also did the thing almost no great striker manages, which is score in the games that decided things. Cup finals, derbies, European nights. The all-time leading goal scorer of Liverpool Football Club. Number 5. That should tell you how deep this list gets. John Barnes. 10 seasons, mostly on the left wing, and for about 3 of them he was comfortably the best player in England. Not one of the best. He also spent his Liverpool career being racially abused from the terraces, including opposition supporters throwing bananas at him on the pitch, and kept playing, and kept being brilliant, and never made it anyone else's problem. Carragher has him 4th, ahead of the club's record goal scorer. 3 to go. Graeme Souness. 5 years at Liverpool, 5 league titles, 3 European Cups, and a reputation as the hardest midfielder of his entire generation, which in 1980s English football is a genuinely frightening thing to be known for. But that's not the reason Carragher picks him. He calls Souness the best central midfielder this country has ever produced. Ever. Not the toughest, the best. That is the single strongest claim Carragher makes about anybody on this list, a bigger statement than anything he says about Gerrard or Dalglish. And Souness is still only third. Kenny Dalglish, King Kenny. Player, then manager, then the man who carried the entire city through Hillsborough, going to funeral after funeral, week after week, because he decided that was his job and nobody else was doing it. On the pitch, 6 league titles, 3 European Cups, and a way of playing that made everyone around him better. For an enormous number of Liverpool supporters, this is number 1, and it isn't a debate. And Carragher's own words are that when he thinks of Liverpool, he thinks of Kenny Dalglish. He is saying Dalglish is the club. And he still put him second. Steven Gerrard. 17 years, over 700 appearances, and not 1 league title. That's the argument against him, and it's a real one. Dalglish won everything. Gerrard didn't win the thing he wanted most, and everyone watched him not win it for a decade. Carragher's answer is that it's the wrong measurement. What he points to is 2 afternoons. Istanbul, 2005. 3-0 down at halftime to a Milan side that was better than Liverpool in every position. Gerrard scores, the whole thing turns, and Liverpool win the European Cup on penalties. Then the FA Cup final a year later. West Ham. Injury time. Liverpool losing, 35 yards out, and he hits it first time. Carragher's line is that those performances will still be talked about in 40 or 50 years. That's the entire argument. Dalglish had the better career. Gerrard had the better moments. And these two played together 572 times. Nobody on earth watched both of them more closely. 10 names, from a man who made 737 appearances for the club. And what the list actually reveals is that Liverpool doesn't measure greatness in trophies. Callaghan is on it for staying. Barnes is on it for how he played, not what he won. Souness gets the biggest compliment and finishes third. Gerrard is number 1 for 2 afternoons. And Salah, who scored more goals than 8 of the 9 men ranked above him, comes 6th in the season he leaves. So, is Carragher wrong about Salah? Because I think he might be. Tell me in the comments. GameDog FC.